Hey guys, it's Sebastian from AskSebby and welcome to Paris. Today we are going to talk about when I use points and when I use cash to make hotel bookings and my whole thought process around all of this. Before we do that though, let's go back inside just because we're pretty high up and the railing's very low. Yikes. Ow, ow. One big favor is to give this a thumbs up, very easy way to support the channel. And if you are someone who wants to follow our vacation, our trip, and you want to see what we're up to, go check out our Instagram where Mandy is currently posting that.
Yes, follow us on Instagram.
And in case you're wondering, the Instagram is AskSebby. In this video, we're going to talk about how I think about booking with points versus cash and when I do both of those, and also answer the question whether I only stay at luxury properties. Let's actually answer that one first because it's a very commonly asked question, and the answer is no. I tend to only show that stuff over on Instagram and YouTube because that's what you guys tend to care about. Looking at the data, looking at what videos do well, and also the view times. Videos about Holiday Inn, Best Westerns, this is a Best Western, typically don't do well. If the view time for a normal video is about 5 to 6 minutes, for those videos, you're looking at about 50 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, so substantially worse. A way to think of it is that you guys are pretty much my manager, and I want to create content that you guys actually care about that adds value to you. Imagine if you had an employee that you were managing and they end up spending a lot of time and resources doing something and you're like, why did you make that? What's the point of this?
Seb, I hope your TPS report is ready in the morning.
I need to break a printer. So yes, I do stay at normal people places. Some of the best trips I've taken to places like Faroe Islands have been trips that I haven't really used any credit card rewards. They're just trips that I took. Same thing with Taiwan, Vancouver, Korea. They're cool trips and they're very interesting to certain people, but that's not really why you're here. With that said though, let's dive into when I end up using points and when I end up using cash and my whole thought process around all of this. So for me, I end up using points when I get outsized value. In terms of points, this typically means 2 cents per point, but you need to figure out what works for you. One thing I really focus on, and I say this a lot, is that your mileage may vary. You need to do what makes sense given your circumstances. If you're a student looking to do a graduation trip, you probably want to use your points because you're still paying off that student loan debt and you're not really focused on 2 cents per point. You just want to travel without spending as much money out of pocket as possible. If you're someone who has bad debt, who has credit card debt, I would argue that you probably shouldn't be traveling at all. On the flip side of all of this, if you're someone who works in the Bay Area in tech and you have a few years of experience, even if you're someone fresh out of school, you probably make 6 figures, and a lot of people I know who are in 25 to 35 range, you probably make between $200,000 to $500,000 all in. For those type of people who I end up meeting a lot on business class flights, you probably don't really care about savings because you already have that covered. You're looking for experiences. The cool thing about credit cards is that there's not really a wrong way to do it as long as it's a system that works for you. So yes, I end up using my points in places like Bora Bora as well as the Maldives for aspirational stays, but I also end up using my points for random road trip Hyatt stays that are 5,000 points per night. I'll happily spend 5,000 Chase points or Hyatt points, depending on if you have those currencies to transfer over, in order to get a hotel that retails for $100 to $200 a night. In those instances, even if I chose to stay at a Super 6 or a Motel 8 or something, it ends up costing about $100 anyways, so I feel like I'm getting value there that's at least 2 cents per point for a better experience and for a better product. I don't end up sharing that type of stuff because you probably don't care about random Hyatts that are one night and done type of places. I end up paying cash if it's something that I'm comfortable paying and I feel like I'm not getting outsized value by using points. So for example, last night, the place we ended up staying in was about 125 euro. It was a pretty small place and nothing really interesting, but that's a price point that I'm very comfortable paying. For me, I typically want to pay between $100 to $200 per night. My rationale there, which might sound a bit stupid, is that for rent in the Bay Area, you're probably paying about that amount per night anyways, so it's not really too unreasonable, especially if you're considering becoming a digital nomad. The room that we're currently in was actually cheaper than the one last night, even though it's substantially bigger. The reason we have this room though is because we ended up booking the cheapest room at the Best Western, one of the properties in Paris. There's a ton of them, and it was on sale. Regular price was something like $250. If you go downstairs and you look at the retail rack rate, it's also crazy expensive. So this is a good deal by itself. Ended up getting an upgrade due to having status with Best Western that we got by doing a status match from Hilton Diamond. I have that Hilton card anyways. That was a decision that I made that had nothing to do with Best Western, but by doing that match, I ended up getting a slightly better room, and also I can actually do time lapse. So if we put all of this into a 2x2 matrix, I end up using points at cheap places if I get value there. I end up using it at premium places, at these aspirational places if I'm getting value and if it's a place that I want to go to as well. I end up using cash at cheap places if I feel like I'm not getting value and if I'm comfortable paying that amount. And I also end up paying if I am comfortable paying and if it's a place that I want to go to. A good example of this was Intercontinental Da Nang, which was about $500 a night. We spent 2 nights there. We didn't end up using points because it wasn't good value. I'd recommend that place to a bunch of people, but for you, depending on what you're looking to do, you might want to pay it with points because you might not want to pay that out of pockets. And the biggest takeaway from all of this is that your mileage may vary and you need to figure out what makes sense. You need to make your own 2x2 matrix to see where these parameters fall in. For a lot of people, it might be points all the way through. It might be cash all the way through and you don't want to deal with points. It depends on what your priorities are, what you want to do and what you care about, and also what your player 2 cares about. A happy player 2 makes a fun game. This might seem like a random video, but I think this is an interesting topic to discuss given that we have a ton of different people with different priorities and different play styles. For example, if I was someone who had a kid, I would probably focus on more family-friendly destinations like Disney World. Let me know what you think down below. When do you like to use points and cash? I'm pretty sure the community would be pretty interested as well. One final thing before we sign off for this video is if you do want to do the Best Western status match, I'm going to leave a link down below. It should be pretty straightforward. I'll also make a blog post if you need step-by-step instructions, but I think most people should be fine. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you know anyone else who'd benefit from what we just talked about, share this with them. Bonjour, madame. Je m'appelle Sebastian.
I think it's time for dinner. See you in the next one.
Je ne sais pas. Oui. Oui.